Welcome to Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff, where we interview newsmakers, storytellers, and all-around interesting people. Sit back, relax, unless you're driving, and enjoy the show. Here's Jackson.
Hello. I am Jackson Huff. This is Not in a Huff. Thanks so much for joining me. As always, really appreciate it. This week I'm interviewing Mary Feister. Now, Mary is a nomad. I've talked to people in the van world before. I've talked to people that also do something else she does, and that's Reiki. Several years ago now, man, it was at least 50 episodes ago. I talked to a pet psychic who also did Reiki, and obviously we spent a lot of time talking about the pet psychic world and very little about Reiki. So I had Mary on to learn more about Reiki, and then also just to talk about the world of travel and not having a concrete home and her home being on wheels. We've talked to van lifers. It's always an interesting thing to me. I talked to a solo van lifer who kind of lived out on her own in a van. I've talked to a couple who converted a bus. So I just I envy that at the same time. I don't know whether I could truly do it. I think I like my stuff too much, and to be able just to have all your stuff in a van would be difficult. And Mary talks about that, about how, if something happened to her van, it's basically her entire life. It's not just, oh man, that really, really stinks that my car was broken into or that my car, God forbid, was stolen. It would basically be her house, her transportation, everything being taken. So that was interesting to think about too. I enjoyed speaking to her about that process of how she decided to be a van lifer. She comes to it from the nursing profession. She was a travel nurse, so already kind of used to, moving around. But that's still a big step to move into that van. So we talk all about that. We talk about some of the adventures she's taken because of the van life. And then we start talking about Reiki and the things she does there. This is kind of and I don't want to sum it up because I don't know exactly, but it's kind of a meditation thing, kind of cleansing the auras and chakras around you. So she's going to talk about that. She's going to talk about the things that she does in that. That's one way that she sustains her travels is she has sessions with people with Reiki in person and virtual. So something to learn about. Definitely an interesting story. Somebody who's just kind of living out their passion, living out their dreams. So now Mary joined me from her van, actually from her partner's van. So we had some Wi-Fi issues. There was a few times that the audio gets a little choppy. I edited most of that. But there's still a few times where I couldn't necessarily edit it and still get exactly what she's saying. So bear with us there. That's kind of the trade-offs that we have to have in order to interview somebody out there doing amazing things. I really, really enjoy speaking to Mary. Here is Mary Feister. I'm here today with Mary Feister. Miss Feister, how are you?
I'm doing really well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Hardest question of the evening. We had some technical difficulties, so you've heard it once before, so it's not that hard now, but just introduce yourself.
Yes, Mercury is in retrograde, so but I am Mary Feister. I am nomadic. I live in my camper van that I self-converted full time, usually around the West Coast of the United States. But I am also a travel nurse that has kind of switched up careers in the last year, moved into yoga teaching and energy healing, doing Reiki and holding space for others to heal.
Yeah, we're gonna unpack all of that, but I would be remiss in not saying, definitely given what's happened this week, your online name, your page is Energetic Eclipse. I'm in Indiana, so the heart of that total eclipse that just happened on Monday, you're all the way on the east or the west coast, so you didn't get to see it, but have you seen any of these eclipses before? Because it was amazing.
Yeah, I know. I love that you pulled that in. That is the name of my healing company, Energetic Eclipse. That is my website, everything. So Yeah, I was in Arizona during the eclipse, so I didn't, and it was actually cloudy where I was, but I felt it. I felt so many physical sensations during it, and the energy was very intense. I would have traveled to Texas to see it in totality, but my mom already had plans to come visit. So yeah, I stayed here, and it was intense. I did see another eclipse last year. I was in October, and I got to see it from the top of a waterfall hike
Mm.
in Yosemite in California, and that was incredible. I climbed to the top, and like someone had glasses that they handed me, and I was like, "Whoa!"
Mm.
Yeah,
Was it a total eclipse then?
I don't think it was total in October. I'd have to think back more, but I don't think it was total. It was still it's still phenomenal to see, you know.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, I mean, I had some friends who, because I mean, Indiana, it was just this interesting sliver. So I'm from further north. They had like 99%. We had the 100%. It's a total different.
Mm.
I mean, it's a total different thing. That 99 where just enough is there that you still have to wear the sunglasses. That total when you can just take the sunglasses off. It was, I mean, it was amazing. You were talking about, kind of feeling something. We went to the park. They were having a huge, like food trucks, all kinds of stuff going on, and we sat there for like 3 hours. I took the day off of work. I wasn't sure whether I was that excited about it, but then when it happened, I mean, I didn't really truly get emotional, but I was like, dang, like there was just something about it that was really, really awesome. So I like that you said that you kind of had some energy, some feelings behind it when you saw what you saw as well.
Yeah, completely. I didn't really put it together right away. I was just like, wow, I feel really tired and I have a headache and I feel kind of dizzy and I was feeling just like off and kind of weird in my body. And then I actually looked up, I was like, what time is it like in totality? And I realized I was feeling that right around the time that they started to say that it was like the eclipse started to begin where I was.
Hmm.
So it was really cool to be like, oh wow, but okay, I'm in tune with my body. And then my family that I was with, like a few of them were also like, wow, yeah, I really feel it. And we were joking, we're like, maybe this is in our head, but we're
Hmm.
like, no, it is a real thing.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I can't imagine I think the next total eclipse is going to be in like 24 years or something. So hopefully I make that viewing.
Hmm. Well, the next one here in Indiana is going to be like in 125 years. So I don't think I'll make that one,
Whoa.
but yeah, well, we can only hope, I guess. But I'm not going to hold my breath. But no, let's kind of start talking about I guess you and unpacking what you mentioned before. I know that um you were a nurse in the past. You may still do some of that, but you now kind of have a van. You're more kind of nomadic, as you said. So I know the nurse. I know where you're sitting in a van now. But that middle part, how did you go from a nurse to where you are?
Yeah. So I've always been pretty adventurous. I'm actually from Michigan, and I moved out to Arizona on a whim, like the second I graduated nursing school. Really I had never been here before. I just bought a one-way ticket because I had a friend that lived here and told me that I'd like it. And I wanted to try something new. So I moved to Arizona, and from there I was traveling a lot, wanting to see the world, and love to change up locations and spend time outdoors. And while I was in nursing here in Phoenix, Arizona, I was really just finding a lot of frustration in the Western medicine system, and I was diving deeper and deeper into mindfulness and holistic healing, and ended up doing my YTT, my yoga training, and Reiki certification while I was still in nursing. But I changed into travel nursing during COVID, and I was just getting so burnt out. So I was taking a lot of time off in between assignments, really focusing on what made me feel good, but then getting burnt out again as soon as I went back, and really feeling that that large gap between, you know, ancient medicine and Western medicine. And I think my last travel nurse assignment was in California last February. It ended. I went to Central America. And at this point, you know, van life had been in my radar for like 8 years. You know, I remember being in college and being obsessed with a few big, the few first Instagram van lifers, right? And like, I know, like Divine on the Road, I followed her religiously, listened to her podcast, everything. And I was like, this is something I could do. I've always wanted, I just love small, cozy spaces. I love exploring. I love living outside as much as possible. And yeah, so I had it on my radar, and it really came into reality when I decided to come back to the States after Central America. And at this point, you know, from travel nursing, I just had a storage unit, and I decided to sell everything and finally do van life. I sold my Subaru, which is what I like would live out of in between nursing assignments. I would either go traveling abroad or just live out of my Subaru, pitch a tent or car camp wherever I was road tripping to for the next job. And yeah, it was kind of like, why not now? Why not just do it? Because you know, it had been some years of me previously in a relationship trying to like convince them to do it with me, and always feeling like I needed someone else to do it with me. And I was finally like, why not just do it? I can do it. I can sell my car. I can buy a van. I can figure this out. And at the time too, I was also like, and why not just do everything I want to? And so I made my website. I dove deeper into offering energy healing and offering events for the community, and started, even like by the end of the year, started hosting retreats. And it's flowed, I think, because I've been moving from such a heart-driven place, and hoping to inspire other people to just do what they honestly dream of.
No, I love that, and I think there's a lot of people that can relate to that, up to the point of thinking, "Oh man, this would be really, really amazing. I would love to do that." And maybe you said that you've always kind of been adventurous. You even, when it got into nursing, you did the travel world, so it's already not, you know, super grounded. So I guess the question I would have for you, for people who are listening to this and says, you know, that sounds great, but I'm too established or something. What was the hardest parts of making that jump? Because even though you felt ready, it's still, you mentioned kind of a 7 year kind of lead up to it. So what was the hardest parts of finally kind of, I guess, cutting those final connections and doing it completely?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think because mine was, a little bit more of a, like, I knew it would happen eventually. And because I was already travel nursing, I already had just like things in a storage unit, had sold some things, and was already used to living in a small space. And that's what I always say. I'm like when people are like, oh, how do you live in such a small space? I'm like, try living out of a Subaru Outback. This is great. I can stand up in here. But I think the toughest thing for me was honestly just kind of letting go of the consistent community. Because even though I had, been traveling, and I had been nomadic with travel nursing, and I had been backpacking and stuff, I knew I could always come back to Phoenix. And so it was like I had stuff here, I had friends here, I had some roots here. And for me to I honestly had to get to that point where I was like, okay, I either need to sign a lease or I need to buy a van. And I couldn't. I was like, I don't know what city I want to, like, even though I loved Phoenix and I loved the people and I come back frequently to be with community, it just wasn't the place that felt like it was going to serve me the best. And I think the hardest thing was to really like hand off the things that don't fit in a van, because that felt like my last bit of root. Because now I really have everything in my van is everything I have, except for one bin of stuff at my sister's in Northern Arizona. And And so there is that, like, I would encourage to keep the things that feel really sentimental. Like I have my bedding I love. I have my, my mugs I love, my ceramics. I have like kind of silly little things that like feel so at home to me. And I held on to those to kind of like carry home with me. And also just knowing that, yes, there's so much that changes in van life. Like you wake up in different places all the time. You're constantly like, it is, and when traveling, you run into hard days. You still have that in van life. There's a lot of errands to run just to get water and things like that. So it's like really grounding in yourself and finding home within yourself is before taking off. I've talked to a lot of other van lifers, and that's been huge for them too, is like having a morning practice, a morning routine, or something to really ground in so you're not feeling like chaotic all the time with so much change around you.
No, I think that would be huge for sure. I think routine is definitely helpful until the moment that it's not. So I like that for sure. And I gotta give you a hard time for just a second because you mentioned how you're in your partner's van because yours doesn't have air conditioning, but you stay on the western side of the country most of the time. You're talking about all of these things you added and had to take away from the van. Have you ever thought about adding air conditioning? It might be a good idea.
Yeah, I love that you pointed that out. Yeah, I've been doing little things to the van, like because I bought it last May. And I've really just gone where like the good weather is. I've been lucky enough to be able to, have also quite a bit of community in San Diego and like Southern California, which is not as hot as Phoenix right now. And I'd be following the good weather if I didn't have a day retreat coming up in a couple weeks to host. So it's kind of keeping me here in the heat. And yeah, Arizona is experiencing like hot weather sooner than they usually do this year. So that's unfortunate, but this is bringing up the topic of adding AC myself. And luckily my partner does have AC. He's been in his van for 3 years. So he's had a chance to do all the projects.
Huh. Well, that's good. So let's now talk about, you mentioned how you're mostly on the west side of the country. Where has van life taken you? Talk about some of the adventures you've been able to do now that you kind of live in a van.
Yeah, I mean, I actually just got back from Baja, Mexico. I spent the winter there. Talk about chasing great weather. I spent 3 months, just shy of 3 months, living on the beach in Mexico, and that was a dream of mine since I thought about van life. That was something I wanted to do, and so I am so grateful to have been able to do that my first winter in the van. And yeah, it was so magical just waking up. You can park like right next to the ocean, wake up, go swimming, watch mama whales be teaching baby whales how to swim and flap their flippers. And it was just so like I could take so many slow days and be removed from all the distractions of sometimes doing van life in the city. But for me too, I just love to go out in the middle of nowhere down a forest road and be like with myself, with my dog, sometimes with my partner, and just like really be out in nature, whether that's in mountains or the desert. And so I just love to change up my environment and connect to different areas, different landscapes. Another amazing adventure that I went on because of van life was going up like the one up California into Oregon last summer, late summer. I did that and just got to experience that part of the country in a whole new way. And just knowing that I have everything with me all the time, it makes it super easeful, even just to break up a 6-hour drive. You can just sleep somewhere along the way if you want to. Yeah, and I'm looking forward. I have so many other travel plans and dreams and ideas. So I'm looking forward to seeing where else it takes me.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I wonder, is most of these plans kind of determined as a solo van lifer? And if your partner is is along for the ride, that's great. Or do you guys kind of travel in a little van, I guess caravan, as it will?
Yeah, that's what you call a caravan. Yeah, so my partner and I met actually because he also lives in his van. We met in San Diego in a parking lot
Oh
at
wow.
a dog beach. Last I actually met him not long after I moved into the van, but us being both nomadic, I was just kind of passing through and we stayed connected a little bit. And then I ran back into him like a few months later, the end of last summer. And that's where we really got to connect and have some more time together. But that is one thing is that because he is nomadic as well, when we ran back into each other the second time, he was like, "Oh, in a week I'm heading up to Wyoming to go on a backpacking trip. I don't know when I'll be back." And so it's interesting for me to begin to see and date and fall for somebody in the exact same position as me, like full freedom, could go anywhere. And actually it challenged my ego a bit at the beginning because I was usually the one leaving. I was usually the one like, I don't know how long I'll be here. But so I deeply need my freedom and my independence. And that is something like I thrive. I'm a writer. I just published a book. And so I like need that at solo time too. And he totally respects that. So we do caravan. We caravan down to Mexico. We actually took one van to save money. So we took his van down because it's 4-wheel drive. Mine isn't. And so I rented out my van and just stored it in Arizona to make a little bit money as well. But yeah, now we're back in our 2 vans. We're traveling around together, and then we're going to take a couple weeks apart soon, do our own thing, and then we'll meet back up. And it's also called boondocking or space docking. Sorry, space docking, when you like park next to each other and you're able to just like open your doors to each other and step across. So then you kind of have like a bigger apartment. And you have 2 vans to hang out in. So we'll do that a lot too. And we get a lot of people coming up to us and like at trailheads or, wherever we are that are like, oh, that's sick. It's been fun. And the only time I've dated like another fully nomadic person. So it has been a beautiful adventure. We've been able to do a lot together.
No, I love that. What kind of places are you normally, setting up camp? Or are you somebody who, rents space in national parks? Do you set up in like public lands? Or I don't assume most of these what is it? What do you not what was the docking, did you say?
Space docking.
I assume you're not space docking a lot in the back of a Walmart parking lot. So I just wonder where you're normally kind of setting up camp.
Yeah. So I love national forests. I have like this thing where I just do not want to pay for a campsite. Like, of course, if if I'm spending a few days in Yosemite or another national park, then I will. But I just really, I don't know. Like, I think because I've done so much camping on the West Coast, I think it's very different on the East Coast. I spent some time in South Carolina in a travel nurse assignment, but it doesn't seem like there's that much free camping over that way. But out here on the West Coast, there's so much national forest where you can just drive down a dirt road and park up. And they have a rule that you can park up to 14 days and you have to move. And so that is my preferred place, definitely. Ideally, like a short drive or walk to a trailhead, something like that, where we can be outside. But we also I enjoy San Diego and like along the coast. So that is often like beach parking lots, park parking lots. Right now we're at a park in Phoenix. So really just finding areas you can kind of like sit there with your doors open. Cause of course, I try not to hang out in, paved parking lots where it's like busy and loud and hot, and that's definitely not of course some travel days you get kind of stuck in that. You might have to do some work and you're not in the ideal place, but you do it anyways, and that's part of it. But
Right. And just kind of to wrap up the van life side of things, it's became really popular now, and because there's so much people on Instagram showing it, but obviously they're only showing those those glamorous moments. So I just wonder what's some of the non-glamorous sides of van life. We've talked a lot about the amazing parts. What's the not so amazing parts?
Yeah. I actually did post on Instagram, I posted a reel about just like the reality. Like I did a day in the life,
I
but
saw that. I saw that.
oh, did you?
Yeah.
With the day of chores, because like sometimes you really have to dedicate an entire day just to filling water, emptying tanks, throwing away trash and like getting groceries, which are, some of those are typical errands anyways, but there's just a lot more that you have to do. And the thing is that you don't have to, if you're in a house, you always have running water. If you're, you can kind of let the dishes pile up and it's fine. But like in the van, you really have to do the chores no matter how you feel. Even if you're sick, you're like, oh shit, I I'm out of water. Like I need to go do that. And also, I mean, my van is pretty. Oh, you know what? One story is that I actually ran out of gas on the highway one time in my van. And that was pretty scary because I was like, wow, I had this like vision going in. I was like, what if someone hit my van? That's my house. It's my everything. My dog's in here. It was getting dark and and I ended up having to walk a couple miles to a gas station to get off the highway. And things like that it can be very stressful because it's not just like, you're traveling, you're on an airplane, you lose your carry-on and it had some clothes. It's like, no, if something happens to the van, something happens to everything you own. And so that's just another added layer of kind of that potential stressor. I luckily, I mean, knock on wood, I haven't had any big mechanical issues. My van is a 2019 and it's had no mechanical issues, but I know a lot of van lifers that have really been stressed out and bogged down by the cost of having to, keep up maintenance wise with their vans, especially with how many, miles some of us put on them. So that's another thing. And yeah, I think sometimes one that I didn't really account for is like when you fly out, when you need to fly somewhere, where do you keep your van? That was something I really like. I was like, wait a second, I like need a friend's driveway, or if I'm in a place that I don't know anyone, like where can I account that? How can I make sure it's safe? So little things like that you might not think about till you're doing it.
Yeah, those aren't things I would think about at all either. So let's move on to the next area, and I want to talk about the world of Reiki. Now, I've interviewed somebody who they did Reiki. They were a Reiki master or whatever. I don't know all the terms, but we didn't talk very much about it because the main topic was they were a pet psychic. So we spent a lot of time on that. So I want you now just to for people who didn't listen to that episode, what is Reiki exactly?
Yeah, so Reiki is energy healing. And that's kind of just a broad term. There's a lot of different types of energy healing and energy work that you can do and receive. But Reiki specifically is actually from the Japanese lineage. It was created, I studied Yusai Reiki, and that's from Japan. It was created by a man who I believe was a physician as well. But don't quote me on that, but I think he was. But yeah, he found out that you could channel the universal energy, right? They call it a bunch of different things depending on what you're talking about, but universal energy or chi, and channel that frequency, and it travels through the practitioner's body and then enters you, and this like loving frequency, this high vibration. Then, I found with my clients that it brings so much clarity, it brings so much ease, like it eases anxiety, it can help depression, it increases focus and mental clarity and creativity. And for me too, I like to really dive deep with my sessions where it's like so much comes through and they're really tapping into their intuition, their third eye, and you're going and you're clearing out the chakra system, the 7 chakras. these houses of energy that all represent different things. So it is really getting to the root of these causes. And there's actually not a lot of studies. I need to study it in depth a lot more, but studies have shown that it improves so many things, even like clinically, so like chronic pain, insomnia. There's a list, but I'll talk about that sometimes on my Instagram too, to just kind of, for the people that need the science side of it as well.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned about things that you focus on in your session. So I just wonder, for somebody who doesn't know about Reiki, what does a session look like?
Yeah, so everybody does it different. I know I've received Reiki in so many different ways, but I offer sessions in person. I have, studio space in Phoenix and San Diego, and I also do in home. And then also distance healing. That is the really amazing thing with Reiki too, is because energy moves beyond time and space. So if you think about when you're on the phone with a loved one and you feel, you're having this conversation and you feel in your body this like frequency of love and appreciation, like you can send that without being, you can send that same frequency, that same healing energy, and have like basically the same outcome and experience for the client, from across the country, from across the world. I've had sessions with people in Europe, and you can do that over the phone or FaceTime, whatever, but still so potent. But the way I do a session is that, we take a moment to kind of to ground in and hear your intention. And then I usually guide them into just deepening in. So like some grounding breaths, a little bit of guided meditation, and to make sure like the only thing the client has to do is remain open to receiving. And Reiki can only work if both people are open, right? So you kind of have to have the energetic contract of like, okay, you can do Reiki on me. You can't just like walk around doing Reiki on anyone passing by. And then the session that I do is about 45 to 50 minutes of the full energy healing, working through the chakras. I don't talk during it. And of course, if you're in person, you have hands on. If you're comfortable with that, you can also receive it hands off in person, and just respecting people's boundaries there. But I often use crystals. I often use, infused, oils. And then I also, you might hear like the way energy moves through me is through breath or yawning or burping. But I'm not like talking to the client during the session. For myself, I write everything down that comes through because I fill up a whole page, and I would definitely like it comes through and it'd be gone if I didn't write it down. And then I bring them out in a guided meditation, just channeled from the session. And then there's plenty of time that we drop in and we talk about what came through and their experience. And clients themselves have so many different experiences where it's like they can either feel it really physically, where you're feeling like tingling, you're having like your physical body twitching and releasing energy that way. They might even feel kind of nauseous if we're moving a lot of energy in the belly space. They might have a lot of visuals. They might like there's so many different things. Emotional releases are very common during or after as well. But the wildest part is, I was just on a call yesterday with a mentee that I work with. I do some one-on-one work as well, in a container. And she was like, wow, 2 months ago in our first Reiki session, you said this. And I just like made the connection now. And so it's like your life continues to integrate it way beyond the 90 minutes of the session. But it is really beautiful. I've even had like months and months later, people messaging me and being like, oh my gosh, this just came in. And yeah, so does that help explain it a little bit?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm sure that everyone, at some point can benefit from this type of thing. But I mean, I guess what kind of person or what kind of reasoning do you think that somebody would would, I guess, really benefit from a session like this?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Reiki obviously does does and could benefit anyone. Uh, but I will just speak to what kind of clients I usually see. I'm usually drawn to people gain clarity, kind of in a sort of life where they're like, I'm seeking change, I'm seeking, I know I need to do something different, or I'm having a really hard making this decision. That's a big time where Reiki can be a beautiful tool to just connect deeper into your truth. Also, if you are feeling really blocked, whether that's either like you're feeling blocked creatively, or you're feeling blocked in your receiving or your heart space, there's kind of you're stuck in old stories or patterns. There's trauma that you're looking to work through. Those are all very common things for my clients to bring into the space with the intention. Also anxiety. Anxiety is a big one. People that are feeling overwhelmed or anxious or kind of going through just a turbulent time in life. Also, I've actually, maybe because, I do have a nursing background, and I've worked with many clients that, have received a cancer diagnosis and are looking for emotional support and to feel better in their body during the process. And yeah, so many different things. And if you are wondering, if you are listening and you're like, wow, I'm interested at all, like for some reason this is piquing my curiosity, I just encourage you to reach out to me or another Reiki practitioner and ask them, be like, hey, this is what I'm seeking. That's usually, I always ask them, like, what is it that you're seeking for this session? Or, why did you reach out? What are you seeking? Because Reiki is a very powerful tool. And yeah, so I just encourage you to reach out and seek it if it is speaking to you in any way.
No, that's awesome. And you mentioned it a minute ago about kind of one-on-one sessions. I think you mentioned it kind of as mentorships. What does this look like exactly? What are you doing there?
Yeah, so this is a really beautiful offering that I'm working with a few different women right now. I don't only close it, I don't only do women, but I do tend to attract more women into the space. But just working in an intimate space right now, I'm offering a 10-week container where, we do meet once a week, and it includes, week 1 and week 5 are Reiki sessions, and then week 2 and week 6 are embodiment, like somatic practices. And then week 3 and week 7 are kind of connection and expression calls. And then there's also a couple integration weeks in there. Yeah. So you can do a Reiki session, one off here and there, and you can clear the chakras. You can get some of the downloads from the session and bring awareness into these patterns and these stories, and clear some of the fear or other emotions present. But the big thing is the integration. And so if you kind of, experience that internal world going on in you, and then you re-enter the external world where it's stressful and you're overwhelmed and you don't feel supported and you don't have someone holding you accountable to kind of follow through with those things that you were inspired to do right after the session, then a lot of the potential power of the session can kind of fall through the cracks, and you can kind of miss out on so much of the opportunity there. And so this container really expands beyond the session, because so does the Reiki. And meeting once a week, it holds you accountable. I have constant support available in our group chat, and yeah, it is beautiful to see the progress people make in such a short amount of time, when you really stay dedicated to yourself and dedicated to the commitment that they made to dive deeper and gain clarity and heal their trauma or whatever their inspiration is there. So yeah, that is something I have adored holding space for.
And is that something that's just in person, or is that a virtual thing as well?
Yeah, the amazing thing is that it's virtual only. So I actually right
Oh,
now, I'm working with two women in California, one on the East Coast. So wherever you are, it is available, and that is what's so beautiful about the Reiki and about Zoom and technology, right? That it is so deeply powerful no matter where you are. So it's open to everybody, everywhere.
yeah, no, I got you. And the good thing about, having a podcast and interviewing people for it is you get to kind of ask the questions that everyone wonders, but it's a little bit nosy and no one would ask. So I've got to ask you, I guess, you left the travel nursing world. You obviously have to have a source of income to literally keep gas in the gas tank when you remember to fill it up. So is this what's sustaining you, these things that you're talking about now?
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing with van life that I have really enjoyed is meeting other travelers on the road and hearing their stories of like how they made it work, because it really is an alternative way of living, and everybody has a completely different story and different way they're making money and different way they're doing it. And so for me, and what I've found is that just having many streams of income has made it accessible, because of course, I'm not making the money that I made in travel nursing, but I'm also making enough money to live and live comfortably and do what I still desire to do. And when you aren't paying rent, that's a big help. No rent or mortgage is super, super great. But I have different streams of income. So I do my one-on-one mentorships. I do, one-off Reiki sessions. I do teach yoga as well, where I'll do events. I also do a lot of yoga nidra. If you don't know what that is, it's guided meditation or yogic sleep that's really beneficial to the brain and the body, the emotions, everything. But so I'll do collaborations and do events for the community as well. Yeah, I started hosting retreats last year as well. I just published a book, so that's a new stream of income. But that's a poetry book, and I also write a little bit on Substack, which is an app if you don't know what that is. So I share my writings and poetry there as well. You can subscribe and support like financially there. Yeah, so many little things. When I first started, I did feel really overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, because the only way my entire adult life was that I supported myself was through nursing. And so I was really fearful that like I wasn't going to be able to, but I continued to be supported. And for a while there, while I was in Baja, I was also doing like a side gig, doing some marketing and social media and copy for a nutritionist. So really just staying open to ways to make money, to make it work, and also just following what really does feel aligned for me. And when it's like spirit led, when it's heart led, I have found that you are usually like the world opens up to you.
Oh, I love that. And yeah, the other people in van life I've talked to kind of say the same thing about, diversifying and having a lot of income streams is really important. So I love that for sure. You just mentioned your book. We've already talked about so many things you've done. Let's talk about that book. How did the poetry book come along? How did you decide that you wanted to get it down and let other people read it?
Yeah. So my poetry book is called If a Lotus Flower Could Talk. And it's been a work of art that has taken years to manifest. It's filled with poetry from anywhere from like 4 years ago to 6 months ago. Not most of it is like 4 to 3 years old. So it was very interesting to be rereading it so much as I edited it and formatted it, because I self-published through KDP on Amazon. So if you are looking to self-publish a book, you can also reach out to me, because, oh my gosh, it is a process, and I wish I would have had more people to talk to and answer questions with. But it is available on Amazon. And for me, I've always loved writing. I've always loved expressing myself that way, even as a kid, but I got away from it and went just so deeply into like the science side of things during high school, college, and into my early adulthood. And it really wasn't until I started to go really deep into healing a lot of childhood trauma and a lot of, more painful sides of looking at my life. And poetry was the place that really started to emerge as the way to process it. And whether I'm processing like pain or grief or, love or whatever the emotion, like poetry can express that. And I really think it's like the language of the soul. And so I just fell deeply in love with that practice. And, looking through my journals over the years, like half of it is poetry. And so this was something that was kind of taking place as I was really going through a big change in my life. I was quitting my job. I was traveling solo. I quit a long-term relationship. And so there's the full spectrum of emotions, but it's really a story through poetry of, waking up one day in the world and being like, this is not my life. I want my life. And I want to take back ownership over my body. I want to take back ownership over my life here on earth. And yeah, a lot of stories are told throughout it, but it moves in the progression of like chapter one is dark, or part one is dark waters, and by part four, it's really about self-love and just the transition of finding inner peace finally. And so it is a passion project of mine, and I really put it out there because it is so vulnerable, and I'm still like, oh my gosh, did I do that? But it really came through so much that I just needed to put it out there to let others know, like, they are not alone. Like, life is freaking crazy, and you may be coming from a really turbulent childhood. You might be coming from poverty. You may be coming from so many different backgrounds, and to really remind people that, like, you can not only survive, but you can be thriving, and you can find yourself in it. You can re-find yourself in it. And that was really my inspiration. Yeah, and I think there'll be more books to come because it has been a hard but beautiful process.
I love that. Stay tuned for that for sure. We could spend a lot more time talking about that book. We've touched on a lot of different things that you've got going on. I really appreciate that you've spent so much time kind of sharing things. I want to now, just in wrapping things up, what do you, and this is a hard question too, what do you hope the future holds, I guess, on and off the road for you?
That's a beautiful question. I hope the future holds, just continued adventure. I have a trip planned in November to India, which I'm very excited for. And yeah, I hope to eventually, buy some land where I can park my van on it and not have to move around so much, and just continue to hold space and community and hold space for women, and create a safe space for other people to come back to themselves, remember who they are and why they're here, and yeah, to just keep having amazing adventures out in nature and and keep it rolling.
Well, I think it's a great thing for sure. I wish you nothing but success with that. So I want it now just to let you shout out all of your connection points, whether it's, booking these Reiki sessions, the one-on-one, how people are going to pick up your book, your social media. Just shout everything out, if you will.
Yeah. So my Instagram is probably where I'm most active, which is Mary Feister. So that's super easy. Mary Feister, my full name. Yeah, very active on there. That's where I'll announce a lot of events and a lot of retreats, openings for in-person sessions wherever I am. And then, I also do have a Facebook page for energetic eclipse through Mary C. Feister, which is my Facebook. I am less active on there, but if you have Facebook and not Instagram, totally follow me. I will get back. And I also do have an email list that you can subscribe to where I usually actually inform them first of any upcoming events. And that you can subscribe on my website, which is energeticeclipse.com. That also has more of a description of my offerings and just a description about me and what Reiki is and the benefits of yoga, all of that good stuff. And then also my book is available on Amazon. So either in my link in my bio on Instagram, you can find that link to Amazon, but you can also just search on Amazon If a Lotus Flower Could Talk. Any reviews, any shares are so deeply appreciated there. And yeah, I think lastly, I have my Substack, which is actually diving in the depths. And I write a piece every couple of weeks, just diving even deeper into my vulnerable internal world and thoughts there, which you can also find through my Linktree on Instagram. And let's see, I feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh, to actually book a session is through my Calendly, which is also, you can also email me energeticeclipse@gmail.com to get that link, but it's also found on Instagram as well in my Linktree.
No, that's awesome. And all of that for people who are listening, driving and trying to write it on their palm. All of this will be in the show notes as well. So yeah, definitely awesome. I don't know a ton about Reiki. I think it sounds really cool, but I think that, for somebody who does want to learn more about it, it seems like you're a very knowledgeable person and somebody that they could learn a lot from. So I really, really appreciate your time. Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jackson, for having me and reaching out. And I just love your message of finding people doing many things. I know that's what you said to me, and it really drew me in to do this podcast with you, is just like really loving the diversity within one person. And so that's just my reminder of you can be as many people as you want to be. You can do as many things you want to do in this lifetime. And I just love that you are really finding those people out there doing it to remind everyone that they too can do it,
Absolutely. I really appreciate that. So that was Mary Feister. Really, really enjoyed speaking with her. Learned a lot. I say that almost every week, but I'll tell you, that's why I do this podcast. I just learned so much from so many different people. One day I think I'll rent a van at least and go out and spend a couple weeks doing it. But those who can just kind of leave I guess the material world behind and just enjoy the experiences, I just think that's so awesome. Really, really think that's cool. I think that the whole Reiki world is cool. I still don't know a ton about it, but Mary was really, really resourceful in teaching me just a little bit. Clearing the chakras, all that still is a little bit foreign to me, but I enjoyed learning more about it. And I think anything that people can do that makes them feel better, I think is a positive thing. So I'm glad Mary's out there helping other people just get through their day and get through the rat race that we call life sometimes. So appreciate Mary. Appreciate you being here. The links to all of her information will be in the show notes. Urge you to follow along with her. Urge you to book a session with her if that's something that you're interested in, for sure. So yeah, links will be there. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, go follow along on Instagram and on Facebook. Not Enough Podcast on Instagram, Not Enough with Jackson F on Facebook. Go follow /subscribe, depending on if you use Apple or Spotify to this podcast, so you don't miss future guests. A lot of amazing people coming up. Over 180 amazing guests in the past. So appreciate you being here. Hope you'll catch some previous episodes and come back next week too. So take it away, Chris.
This has been Not in a Huff with Jackson Huff. Thank you for listening. Be sure to join us next time where we will interview another amazing guest who is sure to make you laugh or make you think. Or hey, maybe even both. But until then, keep being awesome.